Hi, I'm Kristin Woodford, the Routine Queen, podcast host, keynote speaker, and motivator extraordinaire. I help uplevel women's lives, one healthy habit and mindful day at a time. I wasn't always a fan of routines and early mornings, and spent most of my life feeling that although life was great, there seemed to be something that was missing. I was missing a piece of my spark. And over the years, I have built a foundation of healthy daily habits and rituals that created my own secret sauce for feeling the best I've ever felt. I realized that the secret had been right there inside of me the whole time. If you feel like your spark is more of a pilot light, then this podcast is for you. Throughout the podcast, we will cover all areas of life, including the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It's time to move from feeling like you're just trying to keep up with to-do lists and into feeling like you control your day and ultimately your life. Increase your energy, be present in the moment, and find joy in all moments of life throughout the day. Thank you for joining on this journey. Now let's see how we can up-level today. This is the Routine Queen podcast, healthy habits and mindful living.
Hey there, this is Andrea Leigh, Certified Intuitive Coach, and I want to invite you to a workshop that I am hosting this Wednesday, May 21st at 6 p.m. online, called Forgiveness, Healing Beyond Hurt. So as the title says, this is a workshop on forgiveness that is sure to be transformational. It's rooted in the teachings of A Course in Miracles, where we will discover the true liberating power of real forgiveness. It's a shift in perspective from fear to love, from judgment to inner peace. And I hope that you can all join me.
Hello, welcome to today. I am Kristin, your routine queen, and today we have a very special guest, and I'm very excited for this one. We have Andrea Leigh, who's an intuitive coach. Andrea's journey of awareness into personal and spiritual development began in 2008 when she stepped into her very first yoga class, not really knowing why she was there, but knowing that she needed to be. This one class led to many and opened up a whole new world and deep dive into the healing arts. Throughout her many learnings, she has come to the understanding that despite living in a world of external validation, true peace is an inside job. Her mission is to help heal hearts and minds, one conversation at a time. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, Kristin. Thank you for having me here.
So, my pleasure and honor to have you here as a guest. And as I read your bio the first time, I actually teared up and got goosebumps. And introducing you now, I still get goosebumps because you hit my core beliefs to the deepest depths, and it's just, yeah, it's such a good conversation to be had, and so I can't wait to get into it.
Wow, thank you.
Uh,
Thank you. I can't wait to get into it either.
yeah, and I love that you say your mission is to heal hearts and minds one conversation at a time, and my mission is to open up the world one conversation at a time. And the
Yeah.
inner peace thing, we'll get into that in a second, but it's so impactful. But before we get
Yeah.
into all of that, and I'll ask you to talk about, give a little bit of an intro, but before that, I would love to know, what is something that brings you complete and utter joy?
Mm. Okay, the first thing, like without thinking about it, the first thing that comes to mind is just seeing like the purity in my children. Like just to see them in their, like they're on that cusp age of where they're still children, like they're still really young children and not so conditioned. And so when I can see that like pure authenticity, it's just like it's the biggest feeling ever. Yeah.
And do you find that looking at the world through their eyes increases that, like opens up that in you again?
Yeah. Yeah. And not just looking through the world at the world through their eyes. It's like, yes, I can see it. And if I allow myself to actually shift into that like playful space, like actually embody it, then it's, oh yeah, It's so pure. It's so pure.
It is. And I would say that that's kind of the goal of finding inner peace is to live from that place, right?
Yeah, to live from that place of authenticity and pre-conditioning, pre-beliefs, and I mean, I say pre, which is impossible because we have them. We've been conditioned and we have beliefs and that's part of this human experience, right? But we have to kind of ask ourselves why and unpack those things to be able to get back or back to the place. I don't know. I don't know if it's back or forward or but
Hmm.
to that place anyways. Yeah.
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 Okay, so the last interview that I did, I didn't even ask for them to do an intro because I got so into all the questions right away. So before I before I do that, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever you want to share? And yeah,
Yes,
just
yes.
yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, hi everyone. My name is Andrea Leigh, and I am an intuitive coach. Uh, Contrary to popular belief, intuitive coaching isn't me teaching people how to be intuitive, although I think that is a natural instinct that all of us have within us, like to touch into that intuition. It's really me, yeah, through conversation. I love one-on-one work, just having conversations and using my intuition and tapping into my guides, your guides, everybody's collective energy to help understand what's going on deep down inside and like I said, like heal our minds and heal our hearts because those two things, yeah, they go together. We need to work with them in tandem. Yeah.
Mm.
But prior to becoming an intuitive coach, I've done a lot of personal development and personal coaching. I've studied holistic nutrition. This was the rabbit hole after that yoga class is like I became a yoga teacher and then I had to study energy healing and Reiki and then I was nutrition had to be the thing, right? Like if we can just heal our bodies then and so it's just been a progressive rabbit hole of and I'm sure there's more to come, but coming to this place of yeah, really wanting to work with the internal landscape on a not just a physical level, but on an energetic level. Yeah.
But do you find that all of those things, I know what it's like once you get in, there's no turning back. And do you find that all of those things, though, really help bring a holistic approach
Mhm.
to what you do now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's validity to all of it. Like there's not one thing is right and one thing is wrong. You know, like I still believe in eating really well and you know from eating in a holistic way and if I'm not treating my mind in a holistic way then that might fall flat, you know, like it's
Yeah.
there's so much belief around things that we need to look at too.
And I think
Yeah.
that sometimes our world can be so siloed. We look at things like, very categorized. And I think
Hmm.
that's changing for sure. And it's being talked about more, how interconnected everything is, like, health and emotions and all of
Yeah.
that stuff. And it's still worth talking about that everything is so interconnected that there just is no possible way of dividing them up, I think.
No, it's so true. I agree with you. Like we can talk about this on a human level of like you know we are one of a this is like the deep dive but we are all one of one creation, right?
Yeah.
And so we're just one piece of a larger creation. And so we can talk about that like from me to you, like we're not separate, but how the physical and the emotional body are also one and the same. Like they're
Mhm.
it's all connected. There's a thread that runs through everything.
So, finding inner peace would come from doing personal and spiritual development, correct?
Yeah, I think it's not just one thing also like
Hmm.
you know for I can say for myself I one of my healthy habits is like I try to go to the gym not every morning but you know I try to go to the gym every morning and that's a very physical thing that I do, but it helps me to rebalance my energy and it gives me that hit of serotonin that I need to like help shift my mind. And so like it's not just one thing, but I do believe that when we can tap into the inner landscape, like into our minds, that's where the real magic starts to happen. Yeah, but sometimes it takes other things to get there.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I know the answer for this for
yeah,
me, but
yeah.
I'm gonna ask it. So, if someone's listening and they
Mhm.
ask, why would I want to do this? Why would I want to why do the work?
Hmm. I guess I would honestly answer that question with a question of like, how much do you enjoy suffering?
Mm,
Because we suffer our minds, right? We
yeah.
suffer our minds so much. And and maybe that is even a hard thing for people to swallow or to understand that we're suffering our minds. It's like, no, I'm suffering what's happening out there. But really, it's because of the way we're perceiving or looking at things.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, that would be my answer is like to help shift from suffering into thriving.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Using the example of y kids, so having a family, I guess,
Mhm.
would be one example. By not doing the work and living in the chaos, I would describe it as, of like
Mhm.
the mind and the to-do lists and
Mhm.
the roles that you play. Kids or no kids, there's tons of roles that we play. And, we get so caught up in that often we don't even know why we're doing the things we're doing. We're just doing it. And we know that we feel exhausted and overwhelmed and drained. And we
Mhm.
want something to make us feel better. So we go on a weekend retreat or we go to, I'm going to say Mexico. I know you're just there, but so was I.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm a huge supporter of vacation. But if you're looking at that as your escape, I guess that's
Mhm.
what it boils down to.
Yeah.
It goes from not doing the work, feels like you're living in chaos and like you need or want an escape from your life,
Yeah.
versus putting in the time and intention, um, and awareness into yourself to do the work, gets you to a place where you don't need an escape because every
Yeah.
day is just
Yeah.
beautiful for what it is. Did
Yeah.
that did that
Yeah,
make sense?
that totally makes sense. And like I was just in Mexico and I love getting away and I love like one of the things that I even said when I was on that trip is like, oh, it's so nice to like not have to cook and not have to do laundry and not have to, like I can actually step outside of the role of all of the things that I have to do at home. And so it brings this lightness. And I'm really in this space right now of like even understanding for myself that there's no right or wrong. And
Mm,
so not to make it wrong that you're like, okay, I need a vacation. Like, yes, you need a vacation. Go have a vacation. And like, are you using the vacation as an escape? And even that is okay, but I think there needs to be another practice on a regular basis so that you're not just, yeah, going straight to vacation to feel good, to come back to feel like shit again, to go on vacation to feel good, to come back to feel like shit again. Like, how can we make the everyday, the mundaneness of every day still feel, yeah, joyful and have some peace within that and
mm.
go enjoy the vacation and maybe enjoy the vacation even more.
And totally be present with whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah, yeah,
So where
yeah.
does one start, Andrea?
Where does one start? Oh, again, I want to say like there's not one prescription that works for everybody. I think there's many, many simple places to start. One of them really, I know everybody says this, and it took me even a while to be like, really? Okay, I get it. But meditation is a huge, huge place to start. It's a huge, huge place to start. And I think for a lot of people, that's like, oh, you just like just to sit and be quiet like that. What is that going to do?
Mm,
Um, but to sit and be quiet, and even in that quietness, knowing that there is so much going on, like it's impossible to shut this off. But just for a moment to shift into that space of awareness that there's all of this going on up here, and like what, just getting curious about what all of that is. And doing that enough time, it really puts us in this space of like, I always have this visual of like bringing it into center.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like I said at the beginning, we are all a piece of one big creation. And when we can just take a moment to bring in that awareness, it's like we can connect with that source energy again. And so, yeah, it sounds so repetitive and it sounds so like simple and not simple at the same time, but I meditation is a really, really big piece. Now, that's not necessarily the way forward for everybody. And I think it can be done in different ways. For some, it's writing, and that is a meditative practice. Get up. I always try to get up at least half an hour before my kids do, so that I can just sit with myself, if that is in meditation or in writing or in reading, like reading something that personal development, just a reset moment in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Some people really like to write, and that could be it every day. Some people, they might like to get up and go for a walk every day. But just something to, yeah, I guess kind of circumvent that monkey mind that comes online like the second we wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Hit that reset button. Yeah, those are just simple ways to start.
I have a comment and then a question.
Hmm.
The meditation, I found I am not an expert meditator by any means, but I
Hmm.
try to do it as regularly as I can. And what shifted it for me was exactly what you said. So when I stopped trying to just think about nothing, and when I started getting curious with what was coming up, if something comes up, a thought or a memory or whatever, it's like, oh, well, that's interesting. I wonder what that means. And just like digging and delayering, but questioning instead of just being like, shut up, like I just need to be quiet. It could be there for a reason. And so being okay with like exploring that, it has prompted some really interesting stuff that has come up.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That's
And s-
great.
and sometimes it's grocery lists and that's
Yeah.
fine.
Don't forget to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Shoot. And then I had a question about the last thing that you had just said. Oh yes, okay. So these meditative practices, whether it's writing or meditating or, walking with an open mind, I know that there's no answer to like percentage of time, but is there a difference between, or I mean, I guess, sorry, let me start again. Can you talk to the benefit of looking back? So, like reflecting from the past, but also current day, and then looking towards the future. And I'll give you a personal example.
Yeah.
So, I write religiously every day, and it's something that came into my life a few years ago, and it's so powerful. And a lot over the past year, I found myself reflecting a lot. So spent a lot of time in the past, which was, I think it's good for working through some stuff. But I got to a point where I was like, it sort of just kept me stuck back there. And so when you go through these practices for yourself and when you're like doing for coaching clients, how do you balance that?
Yeah. It's such a good question. And just like you said, I think there really is value in reflecting, because yeah, it can help us to kind of unearth or unpack some of the things, like, oh, all of that was there, and or is there, but how much time do we want to spend there? And I don't think there's a specific answer around like how much time or what percentage should we be there, here, and over there. we'll be ready to shift when we're ready to shift. And yes, of course, as an intuitive coach, it's my job to try to help somebody along. But if they're not fully processed in like the first stages or in the reflecting or in the past or what happened and keep circling on that, then they're not ready to move forward. And sometimes that can take a long time just to be in. But there's yeah, being able to shift into present and then I wouldn't even necessarily say it's future. The way my mentor explains it is it's like there's box one, which is it's like it's like all the things that have happened and the sometimes that can be like a place of spinning and darkness and yeah, mucky stuff. And then there's like the shadow work, the box two, which is the shadow work. And the shadow work is like, oh, right, that is a reflection of A, B, or C. Like we kind of move out of the slogging, I don't know is the word that comes to mind, and
Yeah.
into it's still slogging, but it's into like, oh, there's some awareness around the things that happened or the things that have been happening. And then there's box three, which is like, none of it really matters. Like where we really get into the juicy stuff, which is a hard place for people to go because as humans, we're conditioned to put meaning on everything. And so I don't know if that answers your
Yeah.
question.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can't say that there's a percentage of time or that it's, yeah, there's a flow, but yeah.
I love the way you described that because as you were going through the boxes, I very quickly recognized where I am. And after this, I'm going to go and book a session with you because I really want some guidance because I realize I have entered the shadow work phase and
Yeah.
I don't know how to work through that thoroughly.
Mhm.
Um, but the way you explained it makes a lot of sense. And I guess, for people that have never done anything like this before, maybe it's just the awareness that there's a natural progression and how you're feeling right now. There's a purpose for it. And, you know,
Mhm.
there's, you're not going to be stuck there.
Yeah. And
You
I
don't allow
think,
yourself to be.
yeah. And some people do get stuck there and they get stuck really deep. And I think one of the biggest things around this is to not make any of it wrong or not make any of it right. Like, haha, I've moved on. Like it just because that's, I mean, that's part of the ego or even the spiritual ego. We have both, but there's no right or wrong to the process. And we're human, like we're
Mhm.
souls planted on this earth to have this human experience, which is like I believe that we are here as souls to have a human experience to forget who we are essentially through experiences and hurt and pain and conditioning and trauma and all of those things, which drives us into this place of suffering,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
then we have to somehow undo that suffering or suffer enough that like the sandpaper is now too rough. I have to find a way out to come back into remembering who we are. Like
Hmm.
that's the point of life.
And it sounds crazy and it sounds so simple at the same time. And yet
It's so not simple.
it's
It
so,
is so simple and it's so not simple.
but if you can just, I mean, for anyone struggling sometimes in a moment, if you
Hmm.
can visualize yourself just like taking a
Yeah.
step back and being pulled out and like,
Yeah.
you know, we are so in it
We are
sometimes.
so in it. We believe that we are our body. And so a really simple practice, um, this cannot be done in meditation. It can be done in any moment of every day, but a really simple practice, especially when you're really, really deep in it, is to imagine yourself watching yourself from the ceiling or from the wall or from the couch or from wherever else. Like, can you close your eyes and see yourself seeing yourself?
Mm,
It's just, it's not super easy to do, but even if you can just do it for a second and it kind of blips in and out, it gives us that moment of realizing, oh, that's not me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm over here. I am separate from all of the chaos that is happening in the mind and in the body.
And then it opens up a whole lot more choice, right?
Yeah.
What we do, how we react, how we move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Because so there's, I think another good way to, yeah, open this up or share this is like that we do have two minds. You know, we think that there's just one mind, but there's like the ego mind, which is the conditioned mind, right? It's the mind that spins. It's the mind that sees fear. It's the mind that sees lack. It's the mind that blames.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our spiritual mind, which is the mind of, yeah, it's the mind of love. It's the mind of openness. It's the mind of like, there is no right or wrong. It's the mind of being able to see everybody as divine,
Yeah.
including ourselves. And that's how we came into this world, is that way. And we come into this and naturally, like it's the point, it's the purpose. It's like it's why we're here. There's nothing wrong about it. Um, but yeah, and meditation is just one of those tools, or writing, or however it is, just to unload that is something that helps us to kind of come back to that place of, yeah, the spiritual mind. And I and there's ways to kind of decipher, distinguish where you are. And one of them is, yeah, what's the energy of it? If it's fear, lack, blame, shame, like judgment, where you're in ego mind, which is
Mm-hmm.
natural, it's normal. But when we're in like love and peace and joy, then you know you're in that authentic self, or in the spiritual mind. And there's also an energy to it, like the tightness or the openness. Like you can, oh, okay, I can breathe. Like there
Yeah.
feels like there's spaciousness around my heart. Like there's different energies to it too. And it's so natural and so normal to like, yeah, kind of bounce back and forth. Yeah.
This question may feel like it's out of nowhere. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but here we go.
Yeah.
How does one begin to forgive themselves?
Mm. This is such a huge, I have goosebumps. This is such a huge topic. So that came from your intuition. When you don't know where it comes from your intuition. First of all, just to say that. I'm actually creating a workshop right now on forgiveness because it's such a huge topic, right? And I love the way you asked it, because you said, how does one begin to forgive themselves? Which typically, when we think of forgiveness, it's like they did wrong. How do I forgive them? Right. And so the finger is pointed outwards. So I think the first step, I'm going to back it up just a step,
Mm-hmm.
because, but I will get to your question, is
Yep.
first of all, realizing that when it feels like somebody has done something to us, that it is a mirror in something that is unhealed within us. So, rather than saying, oh, they did me wrong, these is very basic steps, but we can say, like,
Mm-hmm.
what are they showing me? What are they showing me that's unhealed within me?
Mm-hmm.
And so then it really does become about self-forgiveness. And so if I were to use the example of, um, I don't know, I'm having a hard time thinking of an example, but if I were to use the example of, like my partner said that they didn't want to be with me anymore, and they they left me. They left me. I can point the finger out and I can be so mad at them for leaving me. And there's something that's unhealed within me. And maybe that thing that is unhealed within me is the belief, or that I'm not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so then that's the forgiveness piece. It's really digging deep and understanding what it is that needs to be forgiven,
Mm-hmm.
rather than, yeah, maybe I didn't show up enough in the relationship, and so how do I forgive myself for not that? It's the belief underneath that of like, I'm not good enough. And so to begin to forgive that is to, it's again, this is one of those things that's like so simple and it's so not, is we have to unpack that belief.
Mm-hmm.
We have to unpack the belief of like, where did I'm not good enough come from? And then to understand that that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be repetitive and as simple as asking for forgiveness, asking source, asking the divine, some people call it God, some people call it love, some people call it universe. There's no wrong way to call it. But to ask for forgiveness for ever believing that I was not good enough or whatever the underlying belief is. And to continue to do that every time that feeling creeps up is like, oh, please forgive me for ever believing that I was not good enough. Yeah.
So saying it's not a one and done. It's not like
It's not a
once you're
one and
forgiven.
done.
Shit.
No, it's not a one and done. And when we're asking for forgiveness, yes, we're asking divine, yes, we're asking source, yes, we're asking outwards, but we're also asking ourselves,
Mm.
like to drop the belief
Mm-hmm.
because it's untrue.
Mm-hmm.
It's untrue. It's something that we picked up throughout our lives because dad favored my brother over me, or I was picked last for basketball, or, just these little things that keep creeping in over life to say, I'm not good enough. It's untrue. In the eyes of the divine, it's untrue.
Yeah. So if you have this belief and you have the awareness that you have this belief and you know it's not true, but you keep asking and you just feel stuck, where does
Yeah.
one go from there?
Where does one go from there? I think there's a lot of power. Different spiritual teachers will say different things, but I think there is a lot of power in understanding where it came from. Um, yeah. And so, and there we go into the shadow work, right? We can't jump from box one of like being in the muck to like, oh, all is forgiven. That shadow work in between is super important.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it's not super important to know like all of the details of what happened, but sometimes that work can go very deep of understanding where it came from and just unpacking that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I would say that's would be a good place to go.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Curious, and I should start this question by saying I have had a session with you and I loved it. I love your approach to things, and it's just very like organic and nurturing and just
Thank you.
lovely. And so, highly recommend it to anyone. But can you give listeners an idea of what working with you would look like? So, like, yeah, what does that look
Hmm.
like? What does a session look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, the work begins when people, I would say even before people book a session. It's like when it's in their field of awareness that that could be a possibility. The work has already started. And we all have many guides around us, whether you know them or feel them or not. We all have guides, ancestors, archangels, like they're all around us all the time. And so when starting the idea comes in of doing this work, that's when the work begins. So I'll just kind of preface it with that. I always start my sessions with a little grounding, a little meditation, and then just offering that space in that moment where we're all together and our guides are all present and we're all in that energy together of then saying like what's coming forward, because you
Hmm.
might have thought of something like, hey, I want to work on this, and know that it's going to be A, and then we sit down, it's like, oh, B's really popping up. And so we always start with that. And yeah, I can't say that I have like a method or a like a formula for exactly how things go.
Yeah.
It's different for every person. It's
Hmm.
different for every client. Some people might be really inclined towards like the box three, towards the all is forgiven kind of nothing means anything. And some people are really in box one. They're really stuck there. And so just it really just depends on where people are. And I let my guides guide the session a lot, which is
Mm.
still practice for me to be like, oh, I don't know where this is going to go, and to not know where it's going to go, but just to know that in the moment that if my mental mind says like, oh, I don't know what to do, just to be like, okay, what do I do? And then the guidance comes in. So I know that's not an answer, but
No, I love it.
that's super authentic, and that's just how it flows. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's perfect. It's like a cross between a reading and a session, sort of,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is, yeah, I mean it could not get any more individually
Yeah.
suited, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what I often call it. It's like a cross between an intuitive reading and a coaching session.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
How can someone start to, I'm going to say develop, but that's not quite the right word, I guess. Remember and use their
Mm-hmm.
intuition.
Mm-hmm. So it's there. It's there in all of us. Like every single person has intuition. If somebody says they're not intuitive, it's baloney. Fear is the one thing that blocks intuition the most. So, and again, there's like distinguishing the two voices. I remember when I first started trying to understand my intuition, I was like, is this intuition or is this my ego? Like I really can't tell
Mm,
which one it is. And so I'll go back to those two minds or those two voices again. Is like, what's the energy between what you're thinking, feeling, hearing, or seeing? Because
mhm.
there are those four clairs, right? The four parts of intuition. There's like clairsentience, which is when we feel something. It can be the goosebumps. I often get like this tightness on the top of my head. I don't know
Oh,
what,
cool.
it's weird. Um, there's claircognizance, which is just a knowing, and you have no idea where that knowing came from. Clairvoyance, which is seeing, and clairaudience, which is when we hear things, like hear things inside our own head. That's not necessarily our voice.
Right.
So yeah, first of all, there's that understanding, like having that understanding. And we can just practice over time, like what one is the strongest, because we all have one that's stronger than others. And then distinguishing or understanding that it is intuition by feeling the energy around it. Is it an energy of like open, spacious, I can breathe, loving, pure, or is it tight and closed and fear-based? If it's tight and closed and fear-based, then we know that that's not intuition. That's like the ego trying to protect us from that thing that happened 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, those are kind of ways to understand first which voice is happening. And the more that we can step out of fear, which I think this is where meditation comes in again, because when we can connect to source energy, there's no fear in source energy. So the more often that we can kind of connect into that space, the more we dampen the fear and the intuition can start to emerge. Mhm.
Do you ever use your intuition for fun, silly stuff?
Oh, I don't know.
Like parking
Give, give,
spaces or like, I don't
Oh,
know.
I turn on parking karma all the time. And
Okay.
I say it to my kids too. I'm like, okay, kids, turn on your parking karma, driving into a parking lot. Um, yeah. Yeah, I would say that I do. I would say that I do sometimes. Yeah. I can't think of specific examples other than that, but yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a good point is to have fun with this stuff too,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Like lots of it can be intense sometimes. And I would say that one of the other points of life is joy
A
and
100%.
and
Yeah.
play, right?
Yeah, yeah. Our guides are, they're so playful. Like, yes,
Mm.
they are so compassionate because this human existence isn't easy all of the time, but they're funny and they want to have fun. And so that's a huge, huge key to all of this too. So thank you for bringing that forward. It's a huge key to all of this is we take everything so seriously.
Hmm.
We take it so serious. Can we laugh at ourselves for getting mad at the guy that cut in line in front of us at Starbucks? Like, can we laugh at that, at getting mad at that? Because it doesn't matter. But we
No.
get so mad about it.
Hmm.
So can we laugh at that? Yeah.
How do you help develop the intuition in your children?
Mm. I ask them often. Um, I ask them often, like, what's coming up for you? Like, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? Like, I ask those questions. I also, I think especially for my son is very, like, I would say he's much more feeling. He's much more energetic. I've seen him like, he's like, okay, I'm going to shift the energy in the room. And he does some
Oh,
thing with
cool.
his hand. And I'm like, awesome. Um, So I think for them, I tend to go a little bit more in that direction of like when they're hurt, I put my hands on their hurt and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put good energy in now. And they're like, oh wow, the pain went away. Or for my son, he gets anxious sometimes and he's like worries about things. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pull the worry out. And I like
Mm.
wrap it around my finger and I pull it out. And he's like, oh, it's gone. So just playing with the energy, I think is a big way that I do that with them. And for them, it's so real because there's nothing that's told them that that's not true yet,
Hmm.
or minimal things that's not true yet. And yeah, just really asking them to trust their inner guidance. Mhm.
One of my, I wouldn't say biggest fears, but one of the things that I am conscious of is my daughter losing that. And
Mhm.
I want her to hang on to it, like,
Mhm.
not tightly, but with just it always being a part of her. And so, yeah,
Yeah. How
yeah,
old is she now?
5, almost 6.
Almost 6. Yeah.
But it's interesting. There's a lot of similarities in you and I, but when she gets hurt, yeah, I do the same thing. I will ask her, and sometimes, lots of times, she says no, she doesn't want it, but sometimes she says yes.
Mhm.
And I will like hold my hand over it and send healing is
Yeah.
the wording that we use. And I've seen her do it with one of her friends too. Like her friend got hurt and she's like, "Do you want some healing?" And her friend's like, "I don't know what she's talking about." But it's just, yeah, it's so natural, right?
It's so natural for them. Yeah.
Mm.
I remember I have a naturopath that he's out of this world. He's like beyond your typical naturopath, and he works with my kids and he does energy work. And I remember him saying to me, and I never really knew this before. He said it to me, but my son was maybe 6 years old, and he was talking about how at it's usually around 7 or 8, they're I got to get this right. Hold on. So their left brain starts to come online. So the right brain, no, sorry, it's the right brain comes on. I don't know, whichever one it is. Like when they're pre-age, then I'll say, as a general, they're completely in their authentic mind. Like it's all creativity, it's
Mm.
all free, it's all like there's no logic, which can be so hard too, because you're like, just do that. And they're like, why? Like they don't even, there's no logic involved. So you can't reason with a child sometimes.
Mm.
But at age 7 or 8, their other side of their brain starts to come online. And this is that kind of those crucial time, the crucial moments where
Mm.
what their friends say at school start to matter. And like the conditioning starts to come in. They start to see the world through a different lens. And so I think the first thing I want to say is it's going to happen anyways.
Yeah.
and and you can still keep that other part alive. So I think if I use myself as an example, and I'm not wronging anybody for this, but there wasn't awareness around keeping that part of me alive as when I was a child and I was being
100%.
parented.
Yeah.
And so it was like, do your chores, do the dishes, do right, do wrong, like so much conditioning to have a good child so that I became a good girl.
Yeah.
Where if we can keep that spaciousness open. Yes, the other part's going to come online. They're going to start to hear what their friends are saying. They're going to start to hear what their teachers are saying. Conditioning is going to start to creep in, and we're going to do it too. We're going to
Mhm.
condition them too, but also keeping that spaciousness open of like, yeah, like I tell my kids every night when they go to bed, like, you're so precious.
Mm.
Like, you're so precious. I don't think I ever heard that as a child. And I think at some point in time, maybe, hopefully, they'll remember that. Even if it goes away for a while, they'll remember that, or it'll just stick to the little corners inside of them of
Mhm.
like, oh, yeah, I am.
Mm.
So
Thank you
it's
for sharing.
it's an and conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not doing anything wrong by like, yes, we are here to help shape and mold our children. Absolutely. And they also chose to be here, and they also chose you as a mother,
Mm.
and you know
Mhm.
um and they chose to come and have a specific experience that is really beyond our control.
Yeah.
And so we at some in some moments have to just release that as well, and let them have their experience and just be here to love them through it.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
Hmm.
Um, Something that we talk about a lot at home is like how does your body feel? What does your body
Yeah.
want? And maybe
Hmm.
it's food and like how much I have vowed that I try my best never to say you need to eat 5 more peas or whatever it is, right? I'm like, what does your body need in terms of
Hmm.
like nutrition or drinks? She's not going to choose perfectly, of course, and sometimes there'll be consequences, and I'm not going to let her like, I'll make sure she's safe.
Yeah.
But like providing a lot of freedom within that, right? And as a small example, last night we were over at a friend's house for dinner, and her friend were putting makeup on, and she came over with like 2 lipsticks, and she's like, "Mommy," she's like, "which one should I put on?" And I was like,
Mm.
"Well, which one does your body want?" And for some, it
Yeah.
may seem like very strange language, but she didn't even say to me anything to me. She like turned around and looked, like went back to her spot and looked in the mirror and then was like,
Hmm.
"This one."
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it starts out so small and so minute,
Yeah.
but then it transfers, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's excellent. That's excellent. And I love the way that you're wording that. Like, what does your body want? It's like, and maybe that's your intuitive sense of knowing what she needs, like
Mhm.
knowing how she needs to hear that. My son asks me questions, not necessarily about lipstick, but which one should I do? What should I read? Which book should I pick? What da 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 da. And yeah, and it's like that same question of like, well, if you really tune in, like what one, sometimes it's close your eyes and what one feels better, what one pops forward, what one, there's
Yeah.
different ways to ask it. But I think that's perfect of, yeah, allowing her to tune in to her intuitive sense and picking.
But giving them space because
Yeah.
sometimes as well intentioned we are, sometimes we jump to like trying to solve or trying to do, and we take that away from them
Yeah.
without even knowing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the freer the spirit, the more control as parents we try
Yep.
we try to take over. It's like you can't wear your shoes on the wrong feet all day long. Like that's going to damage your feet, but who am I to
Yep.
say? Eventually it's going to hurt their feet and they're going to change their shoes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just trying to figure out where to go from here.
Mhm.
What? what is really important for you to share right now?
Mm. Hmm. What is really important for me to share right now? Yeah, what's coming forward again is just this message of, and I think I want to share this because it's so relevant for me right now, is this message of right and wrong. Like we are taught to judge things as right and wrong. And so we start doing that outwardly, and then we start doing that inwardly. And then we get into the shame spiral or just the judgment spiral, right? And those two energies are, yeah, there's so much heaviness in that. And so I guess the biggest message I want to share in this moment is again, like stepping outside of yourself into that observer, like being on the ceiling or sitting in the chair next to you and looking at yourself from the outside and just even for a moment seeing if you can step into that space of like it's not right or it's not wrong. It's just is. It's just the isness. And there's so much power in that. There's so much power in that. And it doesn't have to be monumental, it can be just fleeting moments. Um, yeah, that feels really important to share because we make ourselves wrong for so much, for
Mhm.
so much. And it's so depleting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and just that's quite powerful. And sometimes we're quick to point out how wrong someone else is when
Absolutely.
it just is.
Yeah. And when we're pointing out that somebody else is wrong, that's an unhealed piece in ourselves
Mm,
that they're just mirroring back to us what we haven't healed in ourselves.
right.
Yeah, which is that's a tricky one, but it's true. It's true. We're all energetic matches. Like
Mm,
the people that we come up against, and especially the people that we have trouble with.
yeah.
We're an energetic match in some way. And sometimes that is like a really beautiful, healing, like nurturing connection, relationship. I know I have that with a lot of my girlfriends. Like, it's like,
Hmm.
wow, like this is thank you for seeing me, you know?
Yep.
And I think quite often in romantic relationships, it's like, it's the masculine feminine, right? Like it's the opposites sometimes of like what they bring up in me is really like that deeply unhealed shadow, and so it gets tricky. I
Mm.
don't know where I was going with this, but yeah.
I want to ask one last question, if I may,
Yeah.
before we wrap up.
Yeah.
And this may be too broad of a question to answer, and that's okay if it is. Can you describe how your life has changed since doing the work?
Mm-hmm. um Yeah, I can sum that up really quickly. And like I said, this has been like, what year are we in? This has been almost a 20-year journey. So it's been a 40 plus year journey,
It
but
never ends.
it never ends. And it began way before I even started. But um, I would say the biggest piece of transformation is trust, is just
Mm,
having found that inner trust, which was, yeah, I believe that was conditioned out of me at a very young age to follow what I was told rather than what I felt. And so that lack of trust in myself turned into like people pleasing and self-abandoning and all of those things. And to have regained all of those pieces, like I feel like I've really pulled those pieces back to myself. And even the things that don't make sense, I know they're right.
mm,
And to have that sense of self regained is like, yeah, there's so much wholeness in that. And there's been so much transformation in my life having that knowing. It's like feeling embodied. I don't know how else to explain it. It's
mhm.
wholeness. Yeah.
Yeah, I got goosebumps
Hmm.
just listening to that.
Hmm.
For anyone that's listening that wants more, so how can they
Yes.
reach you and how can they work with you? And there'll be links in the show notes too.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for
Mhm.
that. I'm happy to do like a 30-minute with anybody, a free 30-minute with anybody who just wants to have one-on-one and feel the energy between each other. So um, that is all available on my website, which you'll put
Yep,
in the show notes.
I will.
And you're welcome to follow me on Instagram if you want more. Yeah, just to be in the energy a little bit more first. And yeah, I would also just love to offer to your listeners, and I can give you the code for this is 20% off a first session
Thank you.
for anybody who wants to work further. But yeah, I think the first step is just yeah, feeling inwards and seeing like, oh, is this something I want? And if that feels like the answer is yes, then let's hop on a call together and just do a little chat and see where we can go from there. My love is working one-on-one. I
Mm.
love just working one-on-one with people. I think building that safe space of just being seen and heard and trust together is so powerful. So yeah, I would love to chat with anybody who feels called to it.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
seems
you.
like not not powerful enough
Mhm.
words, but thank you
Mhm.
for today. Thank you for sharing your time and your wisdom and just you are such a beautiful soul. The world is a better place because you're in it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
Mm.
this opportunity. It's been wonderful, wonderful chatting with you. Yeah.
Okay, so go and check out Andrea. You will not regret it. And have a wonderful week and ciao for now.